Well, hey everybody, my name is Jared Malat. I'm here with my good friend Mateo Colise, and this is the Coltist. And this is episode 37, which we are going to call the Khari Willis episode. And hey, we were just kind of talking about that. Hey, Khari Willis played for the Colts for a few years and retired.
Retired. Yeah,
Yeah,
retired earlier this year.
yeah.
Joined the ministry, I believe. Let me check that out real quick. But I believe he retired to join the ministry. He's like what, 26, 27.
hmm
Yeah, to pursue a career in the Christian ministry. He's 26 years old. He was a nice safety. I mean, not great in pass protection, but a really good guy. He was a player that I really like. He seemed like a good leader in the locker room, and no, it's just one of those players where you're like, okay, this is a nice guy. He's a good football player.
hmm
Teammates love him. So it was not. Of course, you never want a player retired at such an early age. You
Right.
remember a certain quarterback perhaps retiring before turning 30, but yeah, it's in order to him. Hopefully, he's doing fine in his other pursuits, and he lives a happy and joyful life.
Absolutely. As we would wish anyone that, like we were just
Yeah,
talking about, like people retire young and go in a different direction in life. Happens all the times. Certainly not.
yeah.
It certainly is uncommon for like an NFL player, somebody drafted in like the first 4 or 5 rounds of a draft to like only play for that first contract. Although as soon as I say that, I realize like 2/3 of them don't. But yeah. So today, earlier today. The Colts lost at home to the Tennessee Titans. Final score 24-17. Colts fall to 1-2-1.
Yeah, that seems so weird to say. One, two,
I,
and
gu-
one.
I guess it's better than 1-3.
Yeah, it is. It's
Um, I guess that's about the only good thing that you could really say right now is that at
yeah.
least they have a win so that they aren't like irreparably behind everybody. Like 0-4 and you're just not gonna be able to get back into it.
Nah, yeah,
But where they are right now at 1-2-1, you're only like a game out of the division. Like you can really still make some noise here.
yeah,
But some things came down the pipe. This is just the nature of the beast. This is part of this conversation. First things first, Shaquille Leonard has a concussion. Is
yeah. Hasn't
probably not
he's
playing on Thursday.
nah?
Um,
Most likely he's not. But especially after what happened with Tua, I think there's no chance he suits up on Thursday night.
you'd be insane to trot somebody out there after a
Yeah,
concussion right after
nah, yeah, no chance,
the microscopes on the Tua
no
incident.
chance.
And then Jonathan Taylor, the Colts running back, has what was appears to be a high ankle sprain. He's still kind of day to day, so I wouldn't say he's out. Um, but I would say
But I don't, I
without a
don't
shadow.
expect him. I don't expect him to play like probably for the next like at least 2 games, perhaps.
Okay,
I don't know. We'll get more
yeah.
at
Well, I
least on
mean,
Thursday. Yeah, at
you'll
least on
certainly.
Thursday. I don't expect him to sit up in such short week.
Yeah.
Also, disclaimer: I just traded like I in my main fantasy football league. I had
hmm
Cooper Cup, and I traded Cooper Cup for Jonathan Taylor, like straight up.
hmm
So far, not good.
Not he said no. It's not going
Nah,
well.
no.
Um, the big question that I will take away from this game is about the effectiveness of coaching. And here's why. It appears to me that the Tennessee Titans are able to game plan to shut down the Colts run game, and we're also able to sort of mute Michael Pittman. He had 3 catches on 6 targets. That's not a
Yeah, yeah.
great
That's
day
not
for
a
a number one wide receiver. On the other hand, and I can also like empathize. So it's not like I'm totally shitting on the Colts here. Um, on the other hand, Derrick Henry had himself a day,
yeah,
and in a goal to go situation, Robert Woods is just like wide the fuck open in the end zone, and right behind Gilmore. So it's like a good player's in the area just standing there,
yeah,
right? And not aware at all that like their guy their key wide receiver has gotten behind you and scored a touchdown win, and ultimately
Yeah, no,
it was a touchdown game, right? So it's a touchdown game. That seems like a big miss there. And he also and Cooks also converted. I believe he converted for them, and that's a big thing for me with like what does the opponent wide receiver one accomplish for your team and how does it
yeah.
impact? I believe he also converted a first down for them. You can go back and watch. He didn't have a big day. I think he had like four
But he
catches for
got
30
but he
yards,
had yeah.
but he had a touchdown and it was a touchdown game. And we missed a field goal. So you could see how there's margin enough here. And this is why data doesn't tell you the whole story because the story that data tells you is that Frank Reich is employable in the NFL because they're two plays away from winning. I just I just told you. If we make that field goal and we don't give up that touchdown right there, you win that game.
Yeah.
That's what the data says. But we know
Yeah,
that
but
that's not at all
yeah,
what
we
happened.
know that that's not the entire story of the game.
The reality is that it feels like this is the nth game in a row, and I don't know how many it's been, that Jonathan Taylor's just kind of quiet, not quite what you know what I mean, not quite gashing him
Yeah,
like he had
not
been.
getting yeah.
And so
The
this
the
injury,
number
go
the
ahead, sorry.
number that I really want to take a look at is yards before contact because it just seemed like, watching the game, every single rushing attempt, it's like he has two guys at the line of scrimmage with a clear shot at him. Had
Yeah.
no rushing lanes the entire game, like even not by design, because Frank, I remember last year when the running game was struggling a bit, he dialed up like this toss plays or misdirection plays, getting Quentin Nelson in space in front of Jonathan Taylor to get the running game going. I haven't seen that this year. It just seems like every single running play is either a draw play out of the shotgun formation or just like a halfback dive, and it goes like 2-3 yards and that's it. And I'm like, where's the creativity in the run? Because you can get creative in the running game also, and it's just not been the case this year so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the problem, it feels like the Colts don't have like a soul. You know what I mean? They don't have something they can reach down deep and pull from within, and a Shaq Leonard, and there's a reason these
Yeah,
guys, these Kenny Moores and these Shaq Leonards are so important because they come from nothing. And so that they can become these ultimate athletes and they're out there playing with elite athletes that went to the best schools in the
yeah,
world, right? And you need someone that can be confident and is okay being the man amongst men and doesn't is not afraid to break down in front of the ball carrier and punch as hard as you can at the football. Or Kenny Moore today, for the record, he knocked the shit out of a tight end a couple times, and you're like, that's Kenny Moore,
yeah.
man. He really will.
Yeah,
He really will.
he had a nice bounce back game. I like what I saw from him because you remember the last game. I don't know. I think it was against the Jaguars, not against the Chiefs.
Mhm.
But there were a couple tackle attempts where I saw him like shying away from contact.
Mm,
Like that's not Kenny. Kenny is
yeah.
like that 5'8" guy that goes like head first and charges and gets the big hit.
Hmm.
And I was like, what is up with that? So it was nice watching him, get more physical. He was there. He had a really good game.
Yeah, and to start with, Shaq was having a good game, right?
Yeah.
He made back-to-back tackles on back-to-back plays to start the game. And then, of course, I think his absence is what led to his injury. So for those wondering, like, hey man, why'd that happen? Well, I'd argue most of the tackles, most of the time, it's one or the other have been there, right? And now they're both
Yeah.
needing to make the tackle. I think if you go watch the replay, uh, Darius Leonard or Shaq's there first, and Franklin hits him and knocks him off the
Sire
tackle.
Franklin knocks
There,
him off
Franklin
the.
knocks him off the tackle. I mean, he was going down anyway, but like he knocked his teammate off and then ultimately knocked
Yeah,
him out of the game.
and that was on the touchdown play by it was like the 24th touchdown by the second touchdown by the Titans, I believe it was, or the third, not their third touchdown. Yeah,
But yeah, it's unsurprising at this point that the Colts start slow, right? Come out down 14 points real quick again. I feel is endemic of coaching, where for some reason, when there's nothing to be afraid of anymore, everybody seems to play better for some
Yeah,
reason. Up, we're already losing up. And then I think I have a feeling what is happening to this team is what is happened in corporate America. And it's ultimately obviously like a way bigger issue, but it's like the corporatizing of everything. When everything becomes corporate, right? This is what middling looks like. Right, the Colts, while again on paper are 2 plays away from winning this game, we feel like really
yeah,
wasn't that way at all. Really feels like they had our number. And when you look at the numbers, I think the story that it tells is that Mike Vrabel is a capable head coach who can game plan his team to win.
yeah,
Like you could shut
yeah,
down your
yeah.
run
He
game.
had,
I can keep your number one wide receiver from moving the sticks for you. I can make you have to go to your tight ends and your number 3, 4, 5 wide receivers. And that's a problem when there isn't another reliable target for the Colts in the passing game. And they're straight up not willing to give the rock to Naeem Hines. And I think it's a matter of preservation. And I think that's the message that's come down from the top is that what this team needs is the head coach and the quarterback. They need a year together.
yeah,
That's just the message. And that everyone else is in self-preservation mode. Hey, just try not to get hurt. Go out
yeah,
there, play your little heart out, but you know what? Try not to get hurt. And what is going to end up happening is you could see
yeah. You're getting hurt. Yeah,
for the record, guys are not willing to get hurt, so they're getting out of the way. And who's taking the brunt of that? Matt Ryan, right? He's getting hit. He's
yeah,
getting lit up. And then again, like I said, I said it on my little my post game rap video. But as far as ball security, when I was coming up playing football, a lack of ball security was indicative of you not caring, right? And I get it.
yeah,
It can't be that, Jared. He's Matt Ryan. He went to Boston College. He's played for Atlanta like 14 years. He's like one of the best quarterbacks ever. Right. So it can't be that. Could it be because he's like holding on too tight, or he's lost it,
yeah. Just
right?
like some of
I
them.
don't think
Yeah,
that he's lost it because he for better or worse, I outside of a couple plays, I don't think that he was the reason they lost today. And
nah.
again, I don't think it was
Yeah,
again,
I
I
don't
don't think
think
it was running. I don't think it was necessarily running back, wide receiver,
like
tight end shit. It was the O line
yeah.
just
The interception by Jair Tard. That was also just one of those plays where you're like they not only like got lucky, but it was also an amazing play like by the
yeah,
defensive tackle to get the hand
yeah,
up and then the awareness, like the spatial awareness to get there and get your head up and dive for the ball. And he's
with the
like, I
helmet
believe
on.
like, yeah,
Really,
he's like
really hard to do.
above 300 pounds and he's like a big guy going. Just an amazing play, like
Yeah,
by the defensive tackles. Bad luck there. There was a fumble, you remember, where he's like I believe he's like trying to get the ball like over and then he loses the football, and that's the other one where you're like, just okay, these are not like him standing there in the pocket for way too long or doing some shit he's not supposed to do. You're just like, it's there are some of them that are just bad luck, you have
yeah,
to say it. But I'm not saying we lost this game because we were unlucky. I'm not saying we
sure.
are 1-2-1 because we are unlucky. I'm just saying, Matt Ryan's not the problem.
No, I don't. I don't watch him and go, no, I'm gonna have to move on from that. You know what I mean? When
Hmm.
there are quarterbacks when you watch them play that are starters in the NFL, and when you watch them, you go, yeah, I'm gonna try to move on from that. Nope. I feel like Matt Ryan's got the right idea. I just feel like the offensive line got sold some woo-woo.
Yeah,
I feel like they got hard sold that you guys are like top 5 in the NFL, and we get the right signal caller behind you that knows what plays to get you in. And then what I
yeah,
think teams do, here's what the problem is. What teams do is they go back and watch old Matt Ryan film and they look at what he likes to check into. He sees this, he checks into this. This is just what his nature is, right? Because I
yeah,
can tell you your audibles you tend to hold on to those as a quarterback, like what you
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
be
you still
in
got him. Yeah,
when their blitzes are coming. So I think what could also be a problem is teams' only homework they can really do is like, yeah, you could watch these 3, 4 Colts games, but they're so situational that
yeah,
like you're almost priced into watching last year's tape. But then you start to see what happens when we show pressure. Oh, he checks into these kind of plays, tries to get a ball out to this spot. He likes it here, right? And then you game plan to that. And then, like I said,
yeah.
it just feels
If
like
you
I
managed to stop it.
I don't
Yeah,
know what Frank Reich's teaching, but like it's not message isn't being received, right? Where Chris
yeah,
Ballard said that this team would be built in the trenches, right? And that the questions you never have are how about the O line and D line, and that we are gonna handle teams up front, right? And there has been times where this Colts offensive line will get on top of somebody and they will run people down, and there's nothing you can do about that. But it
yeah.
feels like every team's gearing up for that now, like they know it's
Yeah, they know
coming.
what to do. Yeah,
And for the record, they're all these teams are full of elite offensive and defensive linemen. They might not all be like elite in the NFL, but they're by all means elite players. And then
yeah,
as far as like if they're just coached well and they're all on the same page, you're gonna find yourself successful more often than not. And like I said, the problem is that you'll see if you go back and watch the film, the Colts have players that are not doing anything on defense on a given play. Like instead of playing what's called match coverage, which is what a lot of teams have done, is because these teams
yeah,
do all kinds of motions and shifts, and what you really need to do is get guys that are the same size and weight and speed matched up across from each other, pretty much across the board, in addition to bring a pass rush and guard all the other people, right? But like Colts don't do that. So there's a play, for example, that I'm going to be replaying in my mind forever. They go 3 by 1, so that's 3 wide receivers to the right, one to the left with a
yeah,
single back. They shift, which was the inside most receiver on the left, shifted to left, like H back, which is a off the line of scrimmage tight end on the left side. So he goes from right slot to left tight end, and then they motion that receiver across in a jet
yeah,
motion. And when they did
yeah,
all of those things, right, they made a trade. I think you call it trade. They trade the back move too, and then they motion across. And I'm watching Gilmore because I'm if I'm Gilmore, I want that number one wide receiver, right?
yeah,
And when he moves and goes in that jet motion and I see him sit down, I'm like, oh shit, he doesn't know what he's supposed to do now because now there's no one for him to guard. And he's not going to just go in complete motion with that receiver. You give away your coverage every time. So like he sits down behind the end, and then I watch him and he does a little drop back, and he's looking the whole time at the other side of the field where the ball goes,
yeah,
right? And then did you realize right there is where your 4-3 broke down? Right? Because the moment your defense starts having to think, even your best player gets lost, where he's just standing there like, "Oh shit, what am I supposed to
yeah.
do?" Like
Yeah,
they did this, they did this. Oh shit, and it was late in the game and it's tight, and you're thinking like, Jared, that doesn't matter. They got a completion and a first down off that play. So I know for a fact that Stephon Gilmore today in a game, there too much happened. He sat down behind the end and thought, I think I'm just supposed to go back into this area behind me. I think because
yeah,
we don't play match coverage, so I'm not going across the formation and following that receiver. I'm gonna stay here. Like maybe I have this H back. That makes sense. But like I said, what ended up happening is they had
yeah. They got a wide open touchdown.
they had 4 receivers in the pattern, and the wide receivers wide open catch touchdown. And I was just like, huh, that's coaching. And I get it. What we're going to be sold. So what is going to come down the pipe is that this team's got a lot of potential. We have a lot of really good players. Even with Jonathan Taylor banged up and Shaq Leonard out, these are two all pros. We still were within a touchdown of this team. Um, which, which again is not that's not a good that's a bad bill of goods, man. When somebody's telling you how almost good we were today. Um, and then the problem is that now that it's starting to dawn on me what's going to happen now, right? No Jonathan Taylor means no run game.
Yeah.
You don't have anybody
Yeah, it's
other
either, yeah.
than you can't bell
I
cow and Hines when you haven't even given him the ball.
I imagine Philip Lindsay is going to probably get a call and probably get the
Yeah,
start on against his former team. That's because Naheem Hines is not like, that workhorse running back you give like 20, 25 attempts.
yeah.
Deion Jackson's not a guy you want like getting 20, 25 attempts. So you're like, okay, you're probably gonna need a guy like if Jonathan Taylor is not ready to go, which seems like the most likely scenario on Thursday,
Yeah.
short week, playing an away game, like no need to risk your running back.
The 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 silver lining, if there is any for the Colts, is that right now the Denver is losing to the Raiders.
Denver's not being
It's
Denver's not playing.
25-16, but Denver has the ball. And the Colts play at Denver on Thursday.
Yeah, and
Um,
Denver's not been having a good. I expected them to be like among the contenders for the
so did I.
Super Bowl. I thought, Russell Wilson. You're getting Russell Wilson. You're getting, a lot of on what was a really good football team. They have not been playing well. They lost like it was neck and neck with the Texans. They lost a couple games, and now they're losing to the Raiders. So this might be closer than some people are expecting. But if we don't have, if Jonathan Taylor is out and Shaq Leonard is out, it's just you're going Thursday night, playing primetime game, short week,
Yeah,
Denver, which is always a tough place to play. I
and,
don't
and
see
and you know
how.
and you know you're not stopping them. So no matter
Yeah,
what, you're I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at like the scores, right? So I'm gonna go look at this game and see who's being productive in this game right now.
yeah, they have Cortland Sutton, Jerry Judy, and they're all. Russell Wilson is a great NFL quarterback. He's mobile. He can still
Hmm.
move. He
Oh
he
yeah,
has that deep ball. So just like I'm like I don't see us winning on Thursday night, which means probably looking at 1-3-1.
hmm,
And I talked about it on the Discord chat today. Like this is not like last season where we were like, okay, tough start because we have a tough starting schedule and then it gets easier, so we have the chance to get a win streak going.
right.
We have some really tough games. Like we go to New England, and that is always a tough game. We have the Chargers, the Eagles, the Vikings, Titans away from home, Jacksonville again. Jacksonville's playing some really good football. You have some tough matchups. So it's not like you're playing, like, yeah, no team has been really bad this season, but you have a really tough schedule remaining. I just don't see a way we're making the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and I think with that notion in mind, where we're like, hey, I don't actually know that we're gonna make the playoffs this year. Um, I'm always thinking ahead, right? If I'm the Colts now, I'm 1-2-1, about to go into a hostile environment. Like playing at Mile High is
Yeah.
is tough on the road. It's already like a rough environment anyway, and then add the crowd, and it's just going to be tough. I'm not even saying the Colts are going to lose that game. I don't care. Like Denver's not a good team, but expect Javonte Williams, Russell Wilson, Jerry Judy, who's the other one?
Cortland Sutton, Jerry
Cortland Sutton.
Judy.
I was going to say it was rolling off
Yeah.
the tip of my tongue. Cortland Sutton. Expect them to have a game, and they're not for them not to be anything that the Colts can do about that. It appears, right? It appears. It's such a week to week league. Availability is like a big deal.
Yeah, big
Um,
thing.
the problem that I can see, okay, so and I'm trying to think through your problem, right? So my problem is my team starts slow. Why? Well, it's a week to week league. It's also a very situational league.
Yeah.
Things are going to happen.
It's not only who you're facing, it's when you're facing them.
Yep, and
That's a
who
big that's
who
a big
they've
part,
got
yeah.
that's even healthy.
Yeah. That's why
Um,
that's let me just get like a quick like parenthesis here. That's why I thought it was such a must win game because the Titans they were playing like the backup left tackle because Taylor Lewan is out and he was like making his debut with the team. And they also had several players that were banged up, that were not like fully healthy. This was like a short-handed Titans team. and we still did not manage to beat them like relatively at full strength, and we did not manage to get a win. So you're
Yeah.
like, that's also something I'm worried about.
The the problem with starting slow, it tells me what I need to know. It's being prepared for the things you can't be prepared for. Because it's a week to week league, there are injuries. Coaches are kind
Mm,
of put in a corner where you got to come up with a game plan for this week based on known information, and you don't know what that team that you're about to play, what they're working on, and how what their team is trying to develop. Like today, what will be sort of a developmental play for the Titans offense is that little C motion, little
yeah,
sweep they ran with Burks off the fake to Derrick Henry. That ran for a first down. It looked fucking sweet. They had a 2-on-1 on the outside. It was great blocking, great setup. I was like, ooh, football. It looked really good. Obviously, he got hurt like right after that and completely
yeah.
ruined any progress that guy
Any
was going to
sort of,
have on his
yeah,
career. But um, what I saw from Tennessee is what you wanted to see from your Colts. You want to see not, and I get it. The Colts are like a first half, second half team. First half you're asleep, second half you wake up. But you can't do that. I get it. It's a good way to keep it appears like it almost works. That's the problem is that, and it's just like I said last week when the Colts beat the Chiefs. Okay. Winning it appears to solve a lot of problems, but
yeah,
it doesn't actually solve your problems. In fact, it can exacerbate them because now Matt Ryan is super touchdown dependent on his tight ends who are sort of unproven. And so now he has a familiarity with them and a reliance on them. And this could result in more turnovers because he's more likely to go back to them when he gets in the red zone. And if a defense was to game plan for when you've got them a second and goal from the 9, they're going at the tight end.
yeah. They know,
Put a
yeah,
guy in the area, get a pick, right? So, so, um, the thing for me is one, when you're starting slow, this tells me that you're prepared for what you expect out of them, but you're ill prepared for things you couldn't have been prepared for. Cool. That's like a team comes out and they're gonna run all their cool shit, and oh, we weren't ready for that, right? The problem is that when I see the opponent doing it, I go, okay, so the ball was out of the quarterback's hand quick.
yeah,
It was sort of a misdirection. It was to the power side of the formation. It had the back's interest, meaning that they didn't leave him on an island. He had
yeah,
blockers. So he had the back's interest. It was timely. It was for positive run for first down, and it wasn't a downhill handoff.
yeah,
Okay, I like seeing that. But then I see the Colts. I think I'd said this prior. They line up in three. The Colts line up in a 3-by-1. So this isn't talking about Gilmore anymore. Colts line up in a 3-by-1, and they do the same trade where they trade the slot to the from the right to the left, playing like a H back tight end spot, which means he's theoretically adding a guy to the box. The problem with the trade player is that it was Naheem Hines. So that's not believable to any defense is not going to be, oh, they're going to run on us. They made Naheem's their up back. I love Naheem Hines, but if I'm a linebacker, I'm putting my forearm in his face and going right through him on my way to your quarterback because you're passing. That is a pass, right? It's very obvious to
yeah,
me. When you take a slot receiver and move him to the H back, you're not running the football. You took that off the table when he's not a believable blocker. And they didn't. They dropped back to throw. And when you go back and you watch the coverage on that, you could see the defense talking. We got this guy covered, this guy covered, this guy covered. This is a pass. All you do is stay in your lane. They get an incompletion out of that. And you're thinking like, hmm, who's naive? Who's
yeah,
who's not thinking about if I'm gonna motion a player, and for the record, Naheem Hines was not the target of the play. So let's keep
yeah.
that in mind that when you made this super obvious move, you didn't also use him and go at him, which it would have made way more sense if they would have, but they were basically using him as bait. But like I said, it's decisions like that on offense which just makes you wonder,
Yeah, it's
like,
just baffling. Yeah,
That's not a trade I would have made. For example, here's a trade that makes sense. You come out in a 3-by-1, and Jelani Woods is your inside slot receiver, and you trade him to make him play your left H back. That makes sense because he's like 6'8", 250, and he becomes the tight end on
Yeah,
the left side and adds a guy
yeah,
to the box. The defense goes, holy shit! Now it's 7-on-7 if they hand it off, right? We run, 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 run. We got to think about the run here, right? But when that's not Jelani Woods, when it's not Mo Alley Cox, when it's not even Strand, not even him, not even Michael Pittman, when it's a little guy, defense doesn't care about that guy. He's not a factor in the box. The defense doesn't adjust to that. They knew it was coming, and that's the other thing. I feel like we weren't ready for their unique stuff, right? So
mm,
like the little
yeah,
wrinkles that they're putting in their offense, we
yeah,
weren't, we
yeah.
weren't
Those
ready for
little,
that,
yeah,
and then they were ready for our wrinkles.
yeah. They were ready. Sorry for whatever we just seem to be doing. I
Yeah,
mean, the most productive play was like you remember like the famous patented like Carson Wentz underthrown the ball where the defender loses sight of the ball and the receiver comes back and gets it.
yeah.
That was the biggest play. And then other than the tight
40-foot of
ends
Alec
game,
Pierce.
yeah.
Yeah,
Other than the Mo Alley Cox and the Jelani Woods receptions, which side note, those guys look really good. Mo
yeah.
Alley Cox look great, and Jelani Woods
Big.
looks
He just
just
like
yeah,
it's
he's
like he
big.
looks
He's just
weird on a football field. Like it's like
but
Space
he's
Jam.
yeah, and he's just
He's like
so
a monster.
fluid. Like yeah, and that long reception where like two defenders like popped off of him, where he like gets the back of the linebacker and like pushes him off a bit,
Yeah,
gets the separation, gets the catch, gets the run after the catch. I was like, this guy's going to be a problem. Like
yeah.
this guy is good.
Like if he could stay
When you
healthy,
see him, yeah, when you see him do stuff like that, fourth game in the NFL, like probably like he hasn't played more than 20 snaps this year.
yeah,
No more than 20, like 30 perhaps routes run, and he does shit like that. You're like, okay, give this guy a year, give this guy like 2 seasons with proper coaching, development,
mhm,
developing his craft. This guy's going to be a problem.
yeah. And that's the problem. The Colts have a team full of those guys,
Yeah,
right? So I don't think it's the players, right? It's the Colts don't have good enough receivers. Bullshit. Look at their numbers. They're catching the rock.
yeah.
It's
Ashton
not even
Dillon
it's
also.
not even the plays. The, look at the numbers. 27 at the what I said, 27 to 37 for 256 or something like that and 2 touchdowns. Like I said, if you stop there and you don't consider the fact that he also had 2 fumbles, that he also had an
That
interception,
interception,
right?
that unlucky interception.
Yeah. So like I
But it's
said,
just like,
it's not a situation where I look at the Colts and I go, "Oh, hey, we were right." Remember, if you
yeah,
read the Stampede Blue content, what did we say all off season was going to be a problem? Wide receiver depth, right? We said that was
yeah,
going to be an
yeah.
issue.
We said that. Yeah,
We
we
were
said
not
that shit ton
considering
of times.
that your offensive line was going to come out and be the worst in the
Yeah,
league.
and
Like we weren't thinking about that. There's
yeah,
some severe fall off,
the
you know?
problem I have with that is that Son Ballard, in my opinion, is like you put such an. I said this like time and time again on the Discord chat.
Yeah.
You place such an emphasis on the offensive line and the importance of the offensive line and how that is so important to you. Winning the trenches, you go out and you pay Quentin Nelson all this money. You pay Braden Smith. You pay Ryan Kelly, and then you get at left tackle. You put a guy that has no experience at left tackle in his entire career. Sorry, he's like a journeyman tackle with no experience at left tackle. And then at right guard, you go out and you start Danny Pinter, who also had no experience playing right guard. And those are the weakest links in your offensive line. And I'm just like, could you not like go out and get like, I'm not saying like an all pro guard or anything like that. I'm saying like Mark Lewinsky. He's been having a nice year for the Giants. He had plenty of experience with the Colts, not that expensive. You like get those guys. A left tackle, perhaps with some experience. I'm thinking like Dwayne Brown. There were some guys available on the market. Instead, we went with Pryor and Danny Pinter, and Danny Pinter like got benched. He did not play this game, so it's
Yeah.
like that
Is
was a
it
bad call.
so? Well, my immediate question would be like, well, how did How did Will Freeze do today?
Yeah, I believe he was like average. He was not Danny Pinter levels of bad, but it's not like he was great or at least solid, because Glowinski and Chris Reed, they were solid. They were
Yeah.
like, you went out and you said, okay, this guy can hold his own.
Hmm.
Will Fries and Danny Pinter, you look at them and you say, this is a liability.
So, like I said, I think that the Colts are gonna sell on the team needs like a year to kind of gel. And I get that. I'm not like opposed. Um, I just when you see the sort of ways other teams are developing and moving, I again, I don't think it's the personnel. I don't think it's the plays. I think it is specifically the offensive line and
Yeah.
its decline paired with bad play calling. Um, and I will forever remember as this season goes on and whatever this ends up being. I will keep coming back to Quentin Nelson having to go to Frank Reich and ask him to call a downhill run last year.
Yeah.
And it being like a thing where we also had the leading rusher in the NFL and the guards telling the head coach on the sideline to call downhill run, bro.
Yeah,
Stop
to
running
go
that
out and
RPO
call.
shit.
Yeah.
And then I'll also remember how they let Frank Reich call the RPO 9 plays in a row, and Carson Wentz called his own number every time and threw the ball, pulled it
Yeah.
and threw it every time. And then I'll also remember how like it's not that we're going for it on fourth down, it's what you're doing when you try to go for it on fourth down that doesn't pass logic. And then I'll come back to today in the first half, and again, I could write a book about dumb decisions that coaches make. Okay, but here's one that takes the fucking cake for me today. In a game you're losing, by the way, the Indianapolis Colts today ran double reverse play
Yeah. You.
action
Yeah. That
with
was.
with a 9-step drop.
Yeah. That was not smart,
Bro,
to put it
I've played
lightly.
Madden since the mid 90s, like the early 90s. You don't run double reverse play action until you're up 35-0, spinning the ball in your finger, trying to get somebody to quit before halftime. Like, I don't know I understand that's in your playbook. It's cute, man. And you want to get to the point where you feel comfortable calling that shit. But
That was not. Yeah.
the hard reality is that was a division game and you fucking lost by a touchdown at home to a beat up Titans team. And it's shit like that. It's that stupid double reverse play action that you called when you was
Yeah.
losing, bro, and got your quarterback got a turnover out of that. So
No,
that's
I
a
don't
that
think. I
there is
don't
a
think the
sack, right?
turnover. Yeah, I
I think it
believe
was a
it
sack.
was either a sack or an incomplete pass.
Yeah, so it was a sack or incomplete
I know
pass.
it was not. I know it was not like a. I know it did not work out. That's what
Yeah,
I know for sure.
and the problem, you know why it is, you know why it didn't work out? Because they don't ever hand it off on the action anyway. So the Colts, a lot of these offenses in the NFL, a lot of offense in football period is got a lot of motion and a lot of shifting involved. But every other team I see, they hand it off every now and then. They
Yeah,
they
to
make
keep the
you they
defense
make you
honest. Yeah,
believe that you're going to give that ball to Paris Campbell. You're going to give that ball to Naheem Hines on his way on a rocket. You know what I mean? And the problem is when you don't ever give that ball, the
yeah.
defense doesn't
Defense
have to
not being
honor it
kept on.
anymore. And today there was a lot of and the way I see that defense isn't honoring it anymore is when they aren't trying to be the most outside man anymore. Oh, he got outside of us. Okay, okay. You ain't throwing the ball. You ain't giving it to him anyway. Ain't throwing it at him either. And that's the thing. The Colts are probably setting up, right? Is they're saying like we haven't gone to Hines. We've been using this jet motion all year long. They're going to jet into a wheel for a touchdown, right? Is what they're
Yeah,
working, and they're just baiting people into oh, we're eventually going to have to step up and honor this handoff that never happens, right? And so what will end up happening is the jet motion, if you just use it so often, eventually you get a little bit of separation where the outside linebacker takes a step outside and then you can run it and you're running on him for 4 or 5 yards of carry right there,
Yeah.
right to that linebacker because he take an outside step when he didn't. He was just trying to. His gut wants to be the most outside man. Like, oh shit. And then if you don't ever give it,
Yes, because
all
yeah.
you're ever getting is like a little shift outside by that outside linebacker, and then you might be able to get a 4.5 yard run off that on average. But what hopefully the Colts are doing by never giving it is they're freezing the outside linebacker on the front side of that motion forever. And so what that means moving forward is every team that watches films, they realize the same thing that Jared does. Oh, hey, they never are handing it off, but we got to every now and then you got to honor it or they will. So every now and then that linebacker will take a step outside as if he's going to try to maintain the outside leverage, but they're still going to run it. And so no, you're going to eat the running back. He's going to hit you right in the hip, right? But he's going to
Yeah.
be falling down when he does it because we're going to be ready for that, right? And so that in theory, that's fucking awesome. But when you do it in a game and
Yeah,
and
and
it's
it
a
doesn't
division
work. Yeah.
game and it doesn't work, man, like
Yeah.
you got to give that ball. And there were a couple times where if you watch Paris Campbell, he gets to the end of the line of scrimmage and you look, he's at full speed. And if he's even, he's leaving, right? And there's no one. And you're like,
Yeah.
huh. You hand it off one fucking time, he gets a 50-yard run out of that, and then they have to honor it every time, and you run on
Yeah.
them all
Every
day.
single time. Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah. You
problem
have to
is
respect that. That's the.
we talked about being afraid to be the man, right? We've talked about that. Being afraid to um, take calculable risks. Like in my opinion, and this is where coaches don't see eye to eye. I'm much less likely to ever call double reverse play action when I'm losing. I'm way more likely to hand it off on a jet
Yeah.
because I need to and a lot of people have come to me because I'm a big fan of the jet, big fan of the jet motion, jet sweep. Why do you run a jet sweep? You it's a conditioning drill. I'm trying to wear out their defense.
Yeah. You
The
get
only
them running.
I
You
got to
get
get
them.
them
Yeah.
running to the apron and here's the reality of this. Your offense's run game, if you got a right-handed quarterback, is going to be predicated left. Okay, so Quentin Nelson being an awesome left guard, haha, it works for a right-handed quarterback. Okay, because you should be able to run the ball effectively to your left. Okay, and you predicate your run to the left, and you end up on a left hash. If you got a right-handed quarterback, that's great because that means he has
But
all
yeah.
the field to his right, and that means he can throw, roll, scramble, all to his strong side. And you predicate your offense that way, right? That's how you build it all out so that when he gets out there, he's got people here, 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 here. Oh, look at all these targets, right? Well,
Yeah.
the reason that you run that jet sweep, in my eyes, is that's your right run. That's you running to the right, stretching the defense out, and I like to run it out of spread. It's stretching the defense out. It's making receivers block corners, right? And you get a little 2-on-1 action, and it's somebody else in the fray instead of every down. It's offensive line on defensive line, and some big guy hitting some big guy. There's that, but there's less of that when there's those sweeps are involved, and it's more about the athletes on the edges. And of course you run it back the other way. Of course you run jet sweep to the left. Sure, that's not what I'm saying. Remember you're always going to run to the left, right? The the problem is I don't feel like if you don't hand that off ever, and the Colts don't hand it off, you're setting yourself up. You're just trying to
Yeah. You're.
set
Yeah.
set that outside linebacker for good, and you're trying to make sure every team you play that linebacker doesn't move. Why? So you can go buy him because you're just going to send him on a wheel route and go right past. It's the Top Gun effect, right? You hit the brakes, he flies right by. Same thing here. You're going to keep running that jet motion and never hand it, and they're never going to honor it. You're either going to hand it or you're going to run a wheel route, and he should just be wide the fuck open. And again, you hope that pans out for you. But I think in the interim, you have to start handing it because I don't see another way to jumpstart a run game other than to change the ball carrier. Like you could have, let's say Taylor decides to play. This is some idiot shit. But Jonathan Taylor decides to play on Thursday. The jet sweep looks great now. Why? Because I'm really not trying to give the ball to Jonathan Taylor like that. Like I'd love to use
Yeah,
him
you
as
want
the
to get, yeah.
decoy. You know what I mean? And instead we play action the shit out of people because well the run threat's there and his ankles taped the shit up, because we had to have him. We didn't really have anyone else. We don't have another bell cow, you know? But he hadn't really been playing like one. They'd been kind of
Nah, yeah,
forcing it. It
yeah.
feels like the
Just,
last
yeah.
2, 3 weeks anyway. It's like they're gonna give him his
Forcing
touches,
him
be
like
damned.
not and not creative touches, not getting
No.
him out in space, in the open with two guys in front of him or either, a halfback screen. It was just like, yeah, get the ball, do what you can with it and not creative at all. Like that's my main issue also. It seems so unfair also to a guy like Jonathan Taylor. Seems like every single running play was just, yeah, let's go out there, get 2 or 3 yards, 5 perhaps. That be the end of it.
But they keep
Just not
running
good.
my
Yeah.
least favorite play. So they do this play where they go 3-by-1, three to the left. So three wide receivers to the left, trade, send the wide receiver to the right. So it's still 3-by-1 to the left, but you just trade and put a tight end to the right. So you have a little protection while you throw this route to your left, right? So the Colts line up in this formation. And if you think about it in your head, right, three wide receivers on the left, one wide receiver on the right means no tight end, right? So you have five down linemen plus a running back makes six people, right? Well, Titans are in a 4-3 base. So they got like
Yeah.
seven, they got seven people in there. So 7-on-6, you're not running, just so you know. But it just so happens the Colts, when they make this trade, those are tight ends and they come down on the line of scrimmage. One puts hand in the dirt and one's standing up. So now you're like 7, 8. We have 8-on-7. We're good to run. Now, the only problem that I have is the Colts keep doing this shit where they'll go 3-by-1, trade, motion, and they're in a what I would call run the ball to the left formation, right? You have extra blockers to the outside
Yeah.
left, right? Run that ball to the left sideline. And what do? Put the running back to the right of the quarterback, turns and hands it off straight downhill. And I know why they're doing it. What happens, it's called short-sighting the defense. So what they did was by putting all the skill players on one side of the field, you force all the people defending skill players on one side of the field, and you make it really binary for the quarterback to look and say, okay, the end has got a guy, the guard
Yeah.
and center are 2-on-1ing guard into guy into linebacker. They're 2-on-1ing defensive tackle chipping into the linebacker to get to the second level,
Yeah.
right? I can just hand this ball downhill, and the thing about it is, I know because been around this game my whole life. For some reason, when you see it, you're like, it's open. It's just like the RPO. It is a shitty bag of goods. The problem isn't that your right tackle can't handle that end. The problem isn't that your guard and center aren't going to handle their 2-on-1 and chip effectively to the second level. It's that there's like seven other people headed to the ball right now, and one of them's like backside, right? You come out in that formation and you're overloaded to one side, and they
Yeah.
put +1 on that side, and that guy's their fastest player. Man, come on, we literally have a combine every year. We talk about these guys 10-yard split, right? They can close, right? And that's the problem with ego, is that you
Yeah.
think if I overload left and I can just hand that bitch up straight downhill and we are going to get positive. Guess what? They are 0 for 2 now because they've run it twice and it has got shut down
Yeah.
at the line of scrimmage
It's
both
gone
times.
wrong twice. Yeah.
And you're like, man. And also, every time they line up and do the jet motion and hand it off downhill, it's also getting stopped. And that's why we were talking about it so long. Go back and watch the film. I can't tell you how many times they did it today. And if I'm a defense, I know they're handing that shit off. Every time they're handing that ball downfield, downhill to Jonathan Taylor. Every time he used that jet motion today. And that's what will burn me is like, I love the jet motion. It's my shit. It's my baby, but you got to hand it. It's just part of your game now. You know what I mean? It keeps the defense honest, and it keeps the defense forced into rotation. And that's what you really want is you want the opponent gassed. You want them going to their bench, right? And saying like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm out of energy. This dude's got us running all over the field, And I'll leave us with this because I'm probably about time to wrap her up. I'm
Yeah.
thinking back to when I was in high school, okay? It's summer of 2001. So it's like the summer before 9/11. Sorry. And we find out that Plainfield High School's track team is going to state. So put that in your brain.
Yeah.
The year before that, they were second in the state in football, running the sweep. And when you played against them, you would never believe it, brother, but literally 2 out of every 3 plays was a sweep of some kind, where they sweep right, sweep left, sweep right. It didn't matter. And I'm telling you, I didn't play both sides full time. I only played part time. I never played more defense than when the opponent was doing sweep left, sweep right. There's nothing you could do. There's
Yeah.
nothing you can do about that. You're gonna get gassed. And that's the big thing is
Yeah.
football is a conditioning sport. It's not that the Colts don't have talented players. In my opinion, I don't believe this is a player issue.
Nah. Yeah, I don't
I
believe that either.
I don't. I think that when you turn the ball over in the game, it's because you place such an onus on ball security in practice, where you poo-pooed making mistakes in practice to the degree that like an interception in practice is like when the reality is like all the great coaches I've ever met say make all the mistakes you can make in practice,
Yeah.
right? And all I can think about, and it's just a marketing thing, all you saw all summer long was how Matt Ryan was dicing up the Colts defense, right? Matt Ryan's having himself a day, right? Well, what's going on when we get into a live game with people that don't like you, that you know what I mean, that aren't on your team, that aren't trying
Yeah.
to make you better
Yeah, that
today.
I'm trying to
You know,
make you look better. You get
yeah, you know what I mean? Like what happens when you get and you know what I mean? There's a what you're being sold and then what the reality is. And the reality is they need a year to gel this group of people. And we're in for a rough ride. And I'm guessing somebody's getting fired and at least an O-line
yeah,
coach.
probably. Yeah.
At least an O-line coach is getting fired. I know that shit's happening. And I don't know what's going on. I'm not smart enough, but I have a feeling it's mental. Again, if it were physical, then more people would be injured. You know what I mean? Like guys would just not be able to play, right? But if you're out there and you're able to play, then there's got to be better game planning than what they're doing. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
always think about uh the 49ers, right? Run by one of the most inept humans on planet, but that at least at the head coaching position down, screwed on tight,
Yeah.
right? Like the 49ers, from personnel to their usage to the formations they're in and the plays they're running out of their formations and their distribution. Like when you go look at like touches per quarter, like the 49ers are onto something.
Yeah,
The Rams
they
are
know their
onto
shit. Yeah.
something. And those are things that like you hope the Colts can get to work toward because when you subtract Jonathan Taylor from the Colts offense and you force the Colts to now basically are going to have to go spread air raid, right? You
Yeah.
pretty much because
Yeah, pretty yeah.
you can't put Naheem Hines
Yeah, you
back in the
can't give
backfield
yeah, you can't
every
give
down.
him
He's
yeah,
not
you can't give him
believable.
20, 25 carries. You just
It's not
not
believable.
happening. Yeah.
He probably can't handle half those touches. Probably can't even handle half. You might give him the ball 10 times. It's just tough. It's a hard job to do. You know what I mean? And I don't think that Hines is at every down back. So it forces you, especially in a short week, like
Yeah, you need
you're
to
installing air
change
raid
your entire
concepts
game
at this
plan.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're installing air raid concepts. Like you're going to how do they miss a line, throw to that receiver to where that ball's supposed to be, given that route and given their coverage. Like that's where we're at now. Backyard football, drawing it up in the sand. You just lost RB1. You're where
Yeah.
every other team has been for, you know what I mean, forever, where they don't have a RB1. Um, but yeah, again, a lot of people, I think, one, tie their happiness to this outcome. So that's one of the message I want
Yeah.
to close with is, whatever happens, do not leverage your happiness on an outcome you had no part in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's
it's a game they teach kids to play. that is becoming worldwide. Had a couple games in London. We're going to have a game in Germany later this season. So football is
Yeah, it's
American football
getting
is a worldwide sport. And we appreciate everybody. If you like the content we produce, hey, shoot us a subscribe to YouTube channels. But all we can really do, we haven't even ever asked for money or nothing. So,
yeah.
but yeah, Colts got a short week. Got to have a
Yeah,
short memory,
so
just like a goldfish, like Ted Lasso, right? And
yeah,
turn around
just forget
real
about
quick.
it. Yeah.
And again, it's not the Denver's world beaters, right?
Yeah,
It's
we
not
might
even the Denver's world beaters.
we might be able to surprise them. I'm not banking on it, but
Yeah.
you
They
never
just
know. And
lost.
the
They just
state,
lost by
yeah,
10 to the Raiders.
with the
So
state of the AFC South right now, where it's like win a couple games in a row, manage to get like a couple wins put together, 2, 3 wins, you're suddenly in the driver's seat. So who
it's a,
knows?
which is crazy. Whereas this here and feels like heads should roll, and on the same breath, you're like, but you win a couple games and you're basically in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And you still have this like wild card where they added an extra game, it adds an extra element. There's hope, but I hate to be a hope dealer when I feel like there's just like horribly managed.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
yeah. I'm not.
it's gonna be a rough ride.
Yeah, I'm just to be completely honest and to have it on the record. I don't believe the Colts are making the playoffs. I think that Frank should probably be fired at least after this year.
Mhm.
I just don't think he has what it takes. Ballard, I'm on the like I don't know yet. I think he has some really good traits, but it's like his roster building this season has not been like the roster this year has not been great.
Mhm.
But I'm all for it, especially after yet another slow start.
Yeah.
I'm all for a fresh start. I don't think this Colts roster like is built to win in today's NFL. You said it. I believe it was you or Chris Blystone who said like, well, you said it plenty of times. Like you need athletes, a quarterback. You
Mhm.
can't get away with having a guy like Matt Ryan. So I'm like, okay, this team is not built to win. Like you need to be able to spread out your receivers, guys that can get open fast. Colts are not built like that. So I'm just like, blow it up, start over. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's because of Carson Wentz that I know all this. But the reason the Colts made the move for Carson Wentz is because this data had come out about quarterback play and about how two-thirds of all throws for quarterbacks are off platform and how they're having to be mobile and escape and get out of the pocket. And if you're just like, and I'm just like getting in, like I'm going back to school, Purdue online, I'm gonna go and get an analytics degree, right? Well, before I even go back to school, start to think about really hard about the sport that you pay a whole bunch of attention to, right? And then when you think about like the Colts play calling and their usage, it's like, oh, they're trying to build up the value of their players, right? So they can offload or re-sign, kind of depending. And ultimately are in a position where they're probably gonna get rid of some older, talented players that are going to go somewhere the fuck else, right? Somewhere other than this, middling. But I'm with you. 7 and 10 looks about like it. Picking in the top 15 looks about like it,
Yeah.
unless something else happens. But like I said, I mean, the thing about it is such a war of attrition, and it's such a week to week league, and the Patriots, for example, sat a quarterback, lost a quarterback to a head injury, and are on their third quarterback. So it's not like the Colts are like the worst run team in the NFL. Your quarterback that you have is good at his job. I think that your O line's underperforming and your
Yeah.
offense is
Underperforming
underperforming
to say,
because
yeah,
they're still
to say the
learning.
least.
They're like thinking,
Underperforming, you're being generous with the underperforming seems a bit like an understatement to me. They're playing like shit.
there you go.
Underperforming might be like
Yeah.
putting it mildly. You're
Like,
being generous.
but hey, like I said, I tried, because I want to work in this industry, so I don't want to like shit on these people to a degree where like they would never want to be seen in the same room as you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the exception of Frank Reich, and again, what I'll remember about Frank Reich is quoting Bible verses with Carson Wentz, it's like we're buddies that do the crossword. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'll remember about you. It won't be the football acumen. That won't be what I remember about you.
I did not want
It's
to remember
the
like
cringiest shit ever. That's what I'll remember. You know what I mean?
why are we
I'm sorry.
just those
That
things, where you're like
permanently cemented into my mind
yeah,
is
I have
that
forgotten about
he
that, and
could
now
have been a play calling genius. He
you're
could
reminding me of
have
that
been
shit. You're reminding me of
an
that shit, and it's
offensive play
starting to
calling
piss me off.
genius. And instead,
I
he knows the
fucking
road to Gilead by heart or whatever.
I
Have a great week.
strongly dislike the guy. So
Enjoy
yeah,
the
you
games.
so yeah.
We'll see you after next week's game.
Yeah, see you after next week.
Ah!